Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we will learn how to create our very first Django project. So in this lecture series what we will do is that we are going to create a sample what you could say e-commerce application in Django. So even before you start working or start creating your application or your website, what you need to do is that you always need to create a new folder for your website so that you could use that folder. So I have created this new folder which is called as new site, and let me rename it as new site. So this is just a normal folder which you could make by right clicking, go to new and folder. That means your Django project has now been created. So if you navigate to this new site right here, as you could see, now we have a newly created folder which is called as my site. So this my site folder is going to contain all the files which we are going to need to start and run our Django application. So if you open this thing up, as you could see, you will have another folder which is called as my site and a file which is called as manage. Now as you could notice, this thing is a Python file, so it actually contains Python code which is used to manage your entire website. So if you open up my site, as you will see, there are a few files here. First one is the init file, the settings file, the URLs file, and the WSGI file. Now we are going to learn about these files in much more depth in the upcoming lectures, because if I start to explain you guys what these files are at this moment, then it will unnecessarily make you a bit confused. So we will learn that in the next lectures. So for now, just remember that this is our root directory, which is my site, which is going to contain all the files which we need for our project. So one thing which you could do is that, as we will be working with these, I'm going to type in PyCharm, and when you open up PyCharm for the very first time, it is going to look a bit different than mine, because I have been using PyCharm since a lot of time. So mine is going to appear a bit different than yours. So PyCharm is actually an IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment. So PyCharm basically allows you to work with Django projects. So that is going to load up all your Django project files, and it would be much more easier to work with them by using PyCharm. Okay, so once you start up PyCharm, this is what you are going to get. So essentially, if you're starting this for the very first time, you won't have these files right here. So since I have already done a lot of Django projects, I have these files here, and also you could have your Python files open up here. So now the next thing which you can do is that you would simply go to open, and it allows you to basically open the project of your choice. Now my project actually is present on the desktop, so I'm going to go to desktop, and the name of my project is new site. So in this new site, I'm going to select the my site folder, which is nothing but the root directory, and simply hit OK, and that is now actually going to load up the my site project for us. So as you could see, now PyCharm is up and running, and just close this thing. And if you have a look here on the project explorer tab, here you will be able to find the my site directory. So if you click it, you will have a my site here. You will have all these files present over here, which is nothing but your entire project. So these files are the files which we will be working with in Django, and let's go through each file one by one. So if you go to init.py, it is actually an empty file, but what this init.py file does is that it tells Python that this entire thing is a directory. Then if you move on to settings.py, it includes all the essential and important settings which are required to run your Django website on the server. Then if you go to urls.py, this is actually a file which manages all the URLs associated with your website. Then if you go to WSGI, this is also another set of file which we are going to talk later. But one of the most important files in this entire Django directory is this manage.py. So what this file actually does is that it actually does a lot of things which we are going to learn in detail. So make sure that you don't make changes to the manage.py, WSGI or settings.py file at the moment. So now the next thing which I would like to mention is that as we are actually developing a website, or you could also call it as a web application. So what happens in reality is that right now these files are present on our computer, and in reality when you launch your website to public, these files are going to be present onto a web server. Now for testing purposes, Django actually provides its own set of server which we can use to test our websites while we create them. So if you have to check if this particular website runs on the server, what you could do is that you could simply fire up the Django server. So now let's learn how to actually go ahead and run the Django server. So what you need to do is that you need to go to the root directory, which is my site. So currently we are in new site. So let's navigate down to my site. So let me type in cd my site, and here after going into your root directory, you simply need to type in python manage.py run server. So the run server is actually a command which will allow you to run your Django server in your web browser. So once you are done with this, simply hit enter, and if you have successfully installed Django, then there should be no problem. And as you could see, it says that starting development server at this particular address. So now this means that the server has started, and if you actually copy this URL and if you paste it in the browser, you are going to see the server running. So let me just open up my web browser. Okay, so I have opened up Mozilla here. So I'm going to simply paste that URL, which is http://127.0.0.1:8000. So this 8000 is actually the port number. So this is where Django actually runs by default. So now if you hit enter, as you could see, you get a message as it worked, congratulations on your first Django powered page. So this is the by default page which we get while we run the server for the very first time. And what we want to do is that instead of this page, we want to design our very own page. So we are going to learn that in the upcoming lecture. So this was the basic introduction lecture so as to how to start a new Django project and how to actually run the server. So whenever we actually develop a website, we are going to see our output on this server right here. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys understood how to create a new project in Django. So if you're fine till this point, that means you have successfully installed Django and you don't have any errors. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.